Of the many teams that have come and gone into and out of Formula 1, there is always a name that keeps on resonating when fans are asked who they want to see back. That is Toyota. The Japanese automaker made a brief appearance on the grid from 2002 to 2009. With no wins, left a mark in the sport that is still talked about to this day. What was it exactly? Why did they join and why did they leave? Did they really put their chips on the Stefan Grand Prix project? Guess we'll find out, won't we? Toyota put all their motorsport effort into F1 when they decided to quit rallying and the World Endurance Championship to focus solely on the sport, at a time where BMW, Ford, and Honda were making similar decisions, a move they announced in early 1999. In the year 2000, they secured their spot on the grid for the 2001 season, and after some delays, they joined for 2002. We can assume they just wanted to get everything prepared. Instead of settling in the UK, they opted for Cologne in Germany to build their HQ, which also included a wind tunnel, something that wasn't usual those days. They brought with them their two Le Mans drivers, Salo and McNish, to drive the TF102. With the biggest budget of any team, two successful drivers, and an extra year of preparation, it's easy to assume they came and settled themselves right in, no? If there's something Japanese automakers in Formula 1 love to do, is to be different just for the sake of being different, which usually ends up backfiring. It happened with Honda and almost simultaneously with Toyota. On their first race, after a big collision left 8 cars out of the running, including McNish, only 8 of 22 saw the checkered flag. Salo came home in P6, securing the team's first point. Other than that though, not much can be said about Toyota's opening season. Surprisingly, bringing a new engine in, they weren't unreliable, but just slow, like really slow. For context, they finished 10th in the championship. The team ahead was Minardi, who failed to qualify due to being over the 107% rule on 3 occasions, and withdrew from the Spanish Grand Prix altogether because of the amount of front and rear wing failures they experienced. And around back, there was Arrows who, and I'm quoting here, suffered financial collapse after the German Grand Prix, and could not manage to show up for the latter 5 events. So yeah, that was 2002. For 2003, they sacked both drivers and brought in Cristiano D'Amata, who had won in Champ Car using a Toyota-powered car the previous year, and Olivier Panis from BAR Honda. The team managed to get up to a P5 finish, but remember that only the top 6 got points those days. Still, they made a decent improvement when compared to 2002. At one point, they were running 1 and 2 at the British Grand Prix and managed to qualify 3rd in the US. Come season's end, they'd finish 8th, only ahead of Jordan and Minardi. Yes, musical chairs, that is what I'm calling the 2004 season for the Toyota team. Any solid team structure requires stability and dedication for at least a few seasons, but this just wasn't it, chief. It all started as scheduled with both D'Amata and Panis retained for the season, but after the 7th event, D'Amata was replaced by 3rd driver Zonta, due to poor performance, even though he outraced Panis in 4 out of the 5 events they both finished, but whatever. Zonta drove for 4 races before being replaced by recently exiled Renault driver Trulli. Panis announced he would be retiring and didn't do the last race, so Zonta had to be called back in. With 4 different lineups, Toyota finished the 2004 season 8th again, but with half the points they had scored in 2003. While all of this was happening, some keen-eyed observers pointed out that the 04 Toyota looked quite similar to the 03 Ferrari. Ferrari took notice of this and said, "Huh, they actually do. Funny that," and sued Toyota. In the end, they were charged with espionage, including unauthorized access to Ferrari's computers and misappropriation of files. 2 ex-Ferrari employees were charged with 9 and 16 months in prison. Yeah, that's the F1 spying scandal no one talks about. For 2005, they emptied their wallets. Did they want stability? Well, they got Schumacher. Wait, what do you mean? Oh, Ralph Schumacher. Alright. One of the worst kept secrets in Formula 1 was the Germans' move from Williams to Toyota, replacing Zonta and partnering Trulli. He said this was the best opportunity he would have to challenge for the title, and in all honesty, I can say he wasn't entirely wrong. Their budget was still one of F1's biggest, only behind Ferrari, and their B10s made the competition jealous. Saturday at the opening round in Australia looked grim. With dark skies, the drivers took to the track to set their times before the water started falling. With a surprisingly good lap, Trulli put it on provisional pole, before the last dry lap was put in by his replacement at Renault, Fisichella, to snatch him off Toyota's first pole position. The following day, Trulli took the battle to his countryman, but in an era of no tire changes, blistering proved fatal and dropped him down to P9 by the flag. The Malaysian Grand Prix was next, and it was quite a dull one. Didn't matter to Toyota though, seeing as their drivers qualified P2 and P5 and managed to hold on to those positions till the end, Toyota's first Formula 1 podium. That result would be pretty much replicated for Bahrain, P2 and P4 for the pair. Consistent points would follow, and coming into the US Grand Prix, they were standing third in the championship. Now, the 2005 US Grand Prix was a whole other ordeal. I've covered it already, so link up there in the iCard. Yes, it is an old video, but it still holds up perfectly. But to gloss over it, the second Michelin controversy sparked after Ralf Schumacher's Toyota crashed hard in practice. He had to be replaced by Zonta in a race only 6 cars started because of a mismanaged mess caused by Michelin mostly and the FIA. The latter half of the season wasn't nearly as good as the first one, with Trulli rarely scoring. They managed to hold on to 4th in the standings, robbed of 3rd by Ferrari but ahead of direct rival BMW Williams. Hopes were high for 2006. As Schumacher put it, "We are looking to win some races. That's what our target should be, and let's hope it's a realistic one." It was, though, an average season. When compared to 2005, it was quite a drop-off, but still better than 04. They scored just one podium. A B version of the chassis was introduced at Monaco, but still not much could be done to save the season. The rise of the BMW Sauber and Honda didn't help either. They got pushed down to 6th after many unreliability problems and their middle-of-the-grid results. 2007 was like 2006, but with more accidents and no podiums, 13 points in total. The 2008 French Grand Prix would see them achieve their first podium in over 2 years by Trulli, and newcomer Glock would seal a good season with a 2nd place in Hungary. They looked to be on the up again, from 13 to 56 points. In the face of many manufacturers leaving the sport due to the financial crisis, they're stuck to their guns, and unlike Honda, they retained their entry and made a car for 2009. The simplified aero regulations meant that other parts of the car had to be developed to take advantage of the air. Toyota was one of the pioneers of the double-decker diffuser. 3 podiums in the first 4 events meant that they were only 1 point behind Red Bull in 3rd place. As the season went on though, it was clear that pretty much the only advantage they had was in that diffuser, and as more and more teams brought them to the paddock, they started dropping off the pace. Toyota's last efforts gave them 2 second-place finishes by season's end. They got swallowed by Ferrari and Renault to finish 5th in the standings. Shortly after this, Toyota Motorsport CEO and team principal Tadashi Yamashina called a press conference at the company's headquarters in Tokyo. In tears, he announced Toyota's withdrawal from Formula 1. He apologized to the fans for under-delivering and not getting that promised win. This left F1 with no Japanese automakers, when 2 years prior they had 2. This also marked the 5th Japanese team to quit motor racing in that turbulent economic period, with Subaru and Suzuki quitting the WRC and Kawasaki scrapping their MotoGP team. Toyota had been in talks to sign Kubica and Raikkonen for 2010 and intended to go on to win races. The ghost that is 2010's TF110 is one of F1's biggest what-ifs. 2 race-ready chassis were built before Toyota decided to withdraw, and they were almost finalized when it came to development. Their high noses and revolutionary diffuser approach would have gone to show up on that year's dominating Red Bull, meaning if they had raced, the machinery would have at least been comparable. A radical front wing design was also on the docket. This may as well have been it, not only the car to challenge for a win, but for a championship. The 2010 season marked the start of the extremely unsuccessful minimum budget cap, and out of the 15 new team applicants, Stefan Grand Prix was one of the most serious options. Ultimately, they were left off the draft, with the team head Stefanovic claiming this was due to their hesitance on running Cosworth engines, which were pretty much standard for the other teams joining the grid that season. You see, he had acquired the rights to use Toyota's chassis, gearbox, and the 2010 spec engine, along with a handful of knowledgeable Toyota staff. With the empty spot left by Toyota's last-minute retirement announcement, the FIA looked to fill the 13th and final grid position, which was contested between Stefan Grand Prix and the Sauber Formula 1 team, after BMW sold it back to Peter Sauber. The latter was eventually accepted, leaving Stefan Grand Prix out in the cold. Hope was not completely lost though. The team had intended to launch their car on February 25th, regardless of whether or not their application to the grid was successful, and had been pushing for an entry as a 14th team. F1 boss Bernie Eccleston said he had spoken to the Prime Minister of Serbia, and as a consequence was confident Stefan Grand Prix had the necessary financial support for the government-backed team to be a 14th entry for the 2010 campaign. Ultimately though, nothing came of these efforts. They failed to come to an agreement with F1's tire supplier Bridgestone, and their entry was never fully authorized, thus ending Toyota's expensive, mismanaged, and glaringly unsuccessful venture into the world of Formula 1 racing. This has been it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a blast to research and to do overall. If you guys haven't liked the video yet, go ahead and do that. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And as always, I will see you all next time.